Thank you so much for being with me today, Tami Belt, in our show, 100 Authors in 100 Days with Adriana. And today I have the privilege of introducing you to this amazing woman who wrote this amazing poetry book. So for those of you guys who know me, I'm a huge advocate for poetry writing, and I have a lot of friends who are poets. And I was really fortunate to meet Tami. I think it was a couple of years ago, right, Tami? And I had invited her to one of my, I think, masterminds, just because I wanted her to sign my book, and she did. So, but this amazing poetry book has a story of its own, and I want to share Tami with you guys and let you guys know a little bit more about her and learn more about what she learned through sharing her stories in this amazing book called Poetic Justice: Lessons of Love, Life, and Relationships. Tami Belt. Welcome, Tami.
Thank you, Adriana. I am so blessed and feel so privileged that you chose me to be on your show. It was such serendipity when we met.
Yeah.
And we have so many of the same people in our circle. It's amazing. All the good people are in the same circle.
Yes. I have had the privilege of going through your book and reading it. And you had mentioned at some point that when you started writing this book, you didn't really even know that it was going to be published, right? Because you've been writing since you were a teenager.
Yes. I started writing poems when I was 12, when I discovered boys and met my future ex-husband. I didn't think, like most teenagers, nobody could understand me. Nobody was going through what I was going through. Nobody would listen. And so the poem started writing me, and I thought poetry was like sissy. I mean, I was this tomboy kind of, I played golf. Barefoot. I went fishing. I just, all this stuff, right? Oh. And so I didn't tell anybody. I never showed the poems to anybody, but it was just like my way of getting it out, because I believe that everybody needs to get their feelings out. Mm-hmm. And so it was kind of like my therapy almost. And then in my 20s, I started rereading the poems, not to relive the past, not at all, but I started rereading the poems. And once you see them through the eyes, instead of a 13-year-old or a 14-year-old, when you start seeing it through the eyes of a 20, a 30, a 40, a 50-year-old, you see them differently, and the perceptions changed. And it literally, you're not the same person. You understand things at a different level. So you don't get stuck in the stories. Yeah, you can rewrite the story.
When you decided to publish, how old were you when you finally launched the book?
Oh my gosh, the book was published like 4 years ago. So, I mean, it took me a long time to actually put the poems out there.
Yeah, because you put a lot. I mean, the book is, almost 300 pages. So 258 pages, 59. It's a really thick book. And I've written a couple of poetry books, and it's not more than 60 pages. So that's about all the emotion I can handle in one book. But some of these, I could tell there was a lot of effort put into it. There was a lot of thought put into it. And not only are the poems amazing, but you also have a lot of artwork. Like there's pictures and designs in here, and you have a lot of amazing quotes, and everything pretty much relates, like something like
oh my gosh, that's the gate to my backyard. My friends, I love Picasso because the cubism makes you look at things from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And when I first bought my house, my friend's husband at the time did ironwork. And I designed it to make it look like, two faces, and he made that for me. So
yeah, all of amazing. So not only did you write the poetry, but you also inserted a lot of art, and you express yourself in more than just words, which I love. And then of course this beautiful cover. Can you tell us a little bit about the cover? It's just gorgeous.
I love Jennifer Maine. She, like me, she was born and raised in Las Vegas. She lives in LA now, but she's a Las Vegas native. and I love her artwork, and I own a few pieces, and I've always wanted a commission piece of hers, and I never thought I could afford a commission piece. So I've worked with Jennifer on different charity events where she'll do live paintings to auction off. So I know her, and I thought, what the heck? So I emailed her and I said, Jennifer, I can't figure out what I want on the cover of my book because I am not a graphic artist. I said, this is my book. This is what it's about. I don't know if I can afford you, but I have to ask, what would it be? She was crying. I was crying. She goes, this is why I do art. And it's like, but any artist, whether it's music or painting or dancing, you have to get your feelings out, and that's what you do. It's just the medium depends on the person. And I was able to afford her, and she graciously designed the cover of my book. And it's like, not only do I have my own personal commission piece, it's the cover of my book.
It's just beautiful. I mean, look at that. It's just gorgeous. This is absolutely gorgeous. And it really caught my attention. And then when I think I might have seen your work on Facebook maybe. And then when I saw the cover, I was like, I want that book. And then I was like, and I want to meet Tami, and I want her to sign it. And then, one thing led to another. And then, of course, we ended up doing other things together. But I think that the story of how one writes their story, for those of us who are really, really fortunate to have had the time and the energy and the knowing that it's super important to share who you are to the world, because you never know, especially during these times, right, that you could be here one day and gone tomorrow. And we will always have what is something that you put out into the world to share, and I think there's so many beautiful pieces of you in this book. Of course, I'm totally biased, right, because I love poetry, but even it's just a beautiful book to have in your home. If you're into poetry and art and stuff. And I also want to mention that you are published to Balboa Press, which is a division of Hay House. So that's massive too. Just being published through a division of Hay House is big. And I would want to know, like, how was your experience publishing through them, and how was that process? For those poets out there that would want to get published at some point.
It's a business. It's not all, it's a business. So it's run like a business. It's not all hearts and rainbows, and it's not horrible, but it's a business. I've listened to Louise Hay forever. You Can Heal Your Life.
Yeah, I love that book.
Oh my gosh. And that came at the time that I was going through the divorce and the bad stuff that, it put me in the right frame of mind to not go there. And that's why the poems help just kind of like work through everything. But yeah, it's a business. So there's different packages that you buy, different levels that they help you with, different, marketing and layout and everything. All the photographs in the book, the photos are my photos because I couldn't afford a photographer. So they're my photos, they're my quotes. I thought I could use famous people's quotes that I love because I love quotes, but I couldn't unless I had to research and make sure they were in the public domain, and I didn't have the bandwidth for that. So you learned
a lot in the process. Like most people think, it's just so easy to slap something together. But in reality, when you look at all the things that you can and can't do, and things that are copywritten, I mean, there's a lot of layers to it. So I encountered the same thing, and I became an expert in public domain. And I think that, I definitely recommend anybody out there, especially poets that are trying to get the art to go with if you're not already an artist in terms of, drawing and things like that, that if you go into the public domain archives, oh my God, there's just thousands and thousands of free artwork that you can use, of course, properly credited. but there's just a plethora of things that you can use. But I noticed that you didn't do that. You did your own stuff. So I think as a reader, I really appreciate that. How did you feel about writing, and then after being published, did you feel like you were a different person?
Wow. It was definitely different because there had only been maybe 3 friends who had read all of my poems. And it wasn't that, I mean, there's no names associated with them. Nobody, unless it was that specific person that happened to know that I read, nobody knows who they're about. It's like a diary. It's not about that. But it was interesting because the way that I didn't write the poems, they wrote me. And like I said, it started when I was 12, and the poems quit coming when I was about 25, 30, maybe some into my 30s, and then it just stopped. And if the poems start coming again, that's fine. But if they don't, that's fine. But it's almost like letting somebody read your diary. And I was like, oh, they're so simple. Oh, they're so rhyming and this and that. But they're universal truths, and they're things that everybody goes through. And the few people that read them would say, oh my God, that's it. That explains it. And I was like, okay. Because sometimes when something comes to you, and it was easier to write the poems than it was to live them. Living the experience, because the poems, like, literally they wrote me. But to live the experience through which they were created, that was more heartbreaking or joyful or filled with love, or it's all the emotions. So it was interesting. And then at the book signing, I had a musician friend, and songs were the muse for a lot of my poems, because songs are incredible stories. And one of my musician friends said, did you revise any of the poems? And I'm like, no, because like a diary page, it's that moment in time, and that's what it captures.
Wow, I love that. That is so true.
Even though the poem has different layers of meaning now, it's not like, oh, look what they did to me, I'm just heartbroken. It was like, well, of course that happened. So
yeah, I have a lot of poetry from when I was in high school, and I would dare not read it again. I still have him in some box, and I'm scared to look at it because some of it was so dark, and I'm just not ready to go there. But you have so much deep stuff. Yeah, you have some deep stuff here. It's amazing, and I love your courage to express it. I love it. I mean, because it takes courage to look and to go back to when you were 12, right? And to be like, it is what it is. No revisions. Here it is. You're also working on some. I just love your work. I know for the viewers who don't know your background and stuff, can you give us a little bit about what projects you're doing now and what you've been doing for the last couple of years?
Well, I tell stories for a living, so I do public relations. So it's kind of, the book of poetry was kind of a 360 in my storytelling career, because that was close to the beginning of my story. But I work with small to mid-sized companies and nonprofits to help them excavate, craft, and share the stories in their organization that shapes their brand and builds relationships. So that's what I do for a living. I mean, literally, stories saved my life. I know how important it is to feel seen, heard, and understood, and that's why I love helping organizations do that. So that's what I do for a living, and I'm getting ready to launch an online course called Branding Your Story, How to Build Your Brand Through Stories, because people remember stories. That's what shapes their brand. Yeah,
I love that. I love that that you understand that at a deeper level, and you have a lot of experience with it. So I definitely want the viewers to check out the links below, and when Tami's ready, she'll go ahead and connect with you and give you access to her. Is it going to be a course? How long is the course?
It's 4 modules. So there's 4 short videos, and it's broken into different modules. The first module is, now my mind's gonna go blank.
I mean, you don't have to give us all the details, but it's going to launch in a couple of weeks. It's for individuals that want to continue to build their brand and understand how to go deeper into sharing their story, because I'm sure there's a particular process, and with all your knowledge of being in that industry, I think it'll really help a lot of people. So we'll
leave it at that. Yeah, it's the strategies and techniques, and it's what I've done to help organizations for my 30-year career in public relations.
Fantastic. Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it. I definitely want to check that out when it comes out, and I want to hear more about it as the days move on. And for those of you who are checking out this video, we are in the middle of the COVID-19 epidemic here in the United States. So if you're watching sometime in the future, maybe 20 years from now, you'll know what our frame of mind is right now. And I think it's a revolution of all of us being online and having these kinds of conversations, because as of today, at least here in Nevada, Las Vegas, we're under quarantine, and we have stay-at-home orders. So have you, Tami, I want to ask you, have you found it easier to write now that we're all indoors? Are you going to be publishing more poems? Where are you at nowadays?
Oh my gosh, I revisited writing my blogs. And the blogs that I've written, I've been busy launching the course, so between that and taxes and some computer issues, I've actually been kind of busy. But the blogs that I've been writing are more about how I've used stories throughout my whole life, stories and imagination to cope with anything that comes up, so they've been more helpful. Everybody has pivoted to do something to be of service, and that's what I can do, is to help people rewrite the story in their head, because this is an opportunity, and to imagine the future. Yes, you have to deal with what you need to deal with here and now, but imagine what you want, because that's how you will create it, is to imagine it. And remember, a life well lived is worth remembering. And what a great time to relive the moments that you overcame, the happy times, because there will be there again. Don't focus on, so it's the most important story is the one you tell yourself. And so to get your mind in that mind frame, and you're not your job. Your job is a title. It's one little part of your life, and those different kinds of things. And so that's the kind of writing that I've been doing.
I love it. I love when you say we do have to imagine our future. And although it may be hard right now because of the current situation, I think that you bring a really beautiful point, which is it has to start with us. We have to imagine our future, and we have to stay optimistic, and we have to really stay ahead of what we're being told in the crazy media. If you're even watching any of that stuff, I mean, it's so depressing, right? But just to have that positive attitude and say, hey, let's imagine our future, because it can really be brighter than even before this COVID-19 horrific situation. So is there anything else? Go ahead.
I'm sorry. That's how this country was built, and that's how this town was built. It was built on what people imagined could be, how they imagined it could be better, how they wanted to do it different. And we have that opportunity. Sometimes the rebirth of something, I mean, it's messy. Change is messy, birth is messy, and it's painful. But look at what comes out of it, and you get to create that. We get to create that. Not the corporations, it's the people. It's us. More people want to work from home now.
They're getting a taste of what it is to work from home. I love it. I've loved it for years.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of, I do more work at home than I ever did working for a corporation making a six-figure. I mean, I'm working all the time, but I'm happier doing it. So I love what you just said, which is rebirth is messy.
Well, birth is messy. Anything, and this is it's just a rebirth, renew. Just reimagine it, make it better.
Yes, absolutely.
A lot of things weren't working. There was things that were working, but there was a lot of things that weren't working and were out of balance. So let's realign.
Yeah,
reimagine, renewed sense of passion and purpose about what matters and priorities, and build something better. Because these are the times that new companies, new technologies emerge that flourish.
Yes.
Just figure out how to do it different. Restaurants that are doing curbside pickup, certain breweries that are making disinfectant. I mean, they're just reimagining. Are they going to make disinfectant the rest of their time? No, they're going to go back to being breweries, and that makes people happy. But but you do what you need to do, and you take the resources that you have available to you, even if it's not what you were doing, but what can you do?
Yeah, I totally agree, and I love your optimistic view of things, and I definitely appreciate you taking time out of your Saturday to have this conversation with me. So where can people find your book, and where can they find more information about you?
Oh my goodness, they can find a link to it on my website, which is onebluecube.com. The book is available on Balboa Press, and it's also available on Amazon. But you can just get a direct link from my website, and that's where they can get a hold of me and see the blogs that I've written recently, and will in the future.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time, Tami. I appreciate you. Stay safe out there. And big hug to you. And I don't know when I'm going to physically see you again, but you're more than welcome to. Let's have more conversations on Saturdays, because on Saturdays is when I'm in the little studio doing all my stuff. So would love to have you back again and find out more, especially when you launch your new project. So I want to hear more about that.
Yes,
so let's
I
stay
will
in
let you
contact.
know.
Thank you so much.
There's more in the works, but that's the first one, because that's the basic building block, is strengthening and building your brand. So thank you so much, Adriana. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Tami. Take care. Have a good weekend.